Dylan is pretty far into it.
Alright.
He already failed it.
It happens.
Alright, so the chorus. I'll do wait till the chorus.
Alright.
Just like it.
If you want to insert my card.
Yeah. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. I filmed that for like 2 hours.
I walked in on my friend on the third day.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I failed that one too.
A couple hours in, I was done.
I should have won a Star Wars shirt. I have a Star Wars shirt.
Should I enter? Oh, no.
Go ahead. I forgot. I'm wearing an Avenged Sevenfold shirt instead. Alright, punch it. Punch it. This
Alright,
it?
good shot.
Is this go? Is this go?
Take
Yeah,
care.
it's going. Okay, it's fine. Go. Jared, do you mind closing that door? Alright. Make sure I can. Alright, here we go.
If you don't mind.
We have too much fun on this show. It's gonna be fun. First radio station I worked at. Yeah.
Just a good-looking man, and any bar made to be a star made. Yes, he dances with or without a fan. Hooray for
Yes, indeed. Hooray for Hollywood. My name is Dennis Letty, and this is As the Reel Turns, your place for all things movie and television. And I am somewhat happy to be back this week because of the topic we have today. But, of course, before we get to the topic today, we're, of course, going to start out with our usual beginning, which is going to be our entertainment update today. Yes, now it's time for one of our famous entertainment updates, and today we're gonna do a quick update and then a quick review for you. Actually, funny thing I saw on television the other day. If you're a fan of Disney movies, then you're gonna love this. First of all, not only have they released their famous/infamous streaming system called Da Plus. If that's your thing, go for it. But they're also releasing on their sister or child network called ABC. They're going to release a series called High School Musical, The Series. Now, if I think everybody here has at least seen, no matter who you are, has seen that first film at least. But why would you make a series about this? I have no idea why. I think it's kind of a ridiculous idea, but that's your thing. Then a little review today. I actually saw a movie I haven't seen in a while. Kind of fits in with our theme of today. I saw for once again the movie called Space Camp with Kate Capshaw, Leah Thompson, and a very young Joaquin Phoenix. I like this movie. It's that if you take the camp seriously part of Space Camp, then you're gonna love it. It's a wholesome film. Got kind of a bad review, kind of coming off the shadow of Challenger. But hey, I think you should definitely check it out. If not for the music of John Williams that's featured in it. So that is our entertainment update of today. All right, so we're going to get to our regularly scheduled program today. We're talking about something that I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about something that has been around for years and years and years. It is dips into the sci-fi world. It has brought in new viewers every time somebody new watches it. and I'm just really excited. You're going to know it immediately when you hear the theme song. So this is what we're talking about today.
At least we don't have to stuff it.
Okay, I actually kid a little bit. That's not exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about the other popular sci-fi franchise, which also has a famous theme. You're gonna
The
know
better
it
one.
when you hear it.
The better one, yeah.
Yes, today we're talking about, we're doing our first half of our big Star Wars special. Yes, the big sci-fi franchise that started all the way back in 1977 and has prospered to this year and is still going on thanks to a certain rodent and his company. So like I said, we're doing part one today, which means we're going to talk about the original trilogy that no matter who you are, you can agree that they're not bad movies at all. And then we're going to sprinkle into some of the things that followed it. You know, some of the tiny little series that Star Wars tried to make. Somehow I think of another franchise that did better on television. I wonder what that could be. And then next week we will do our second part, which will be, you know, those other things made in the early 2000s called the prequels, and then the current things in the later 2000s called the sequels. Today I can definitely not do this one alone because I'm going to be struggling throughout the entire thing and making fun of Star Wars because we all know it deserves it. So I have some young Padawans and Jedis here to help me out. We have across me, we have Padawan Dylan. Say hello, Dylan.
The Force is with us, Daniel?
I think
With
it-
us, not you.
I think it is. And next to him we have Padawan Jared. Say hello, Jared.
Hi.
Hi. Next to him we have Padawan Christy. Say hi, Christy.
This is going to be very biased.
You're darn right it will be. And next to me we have a special guest from the film department. We have one Mr. Jedi Tom Cook. Say hello. Say hello.
Well, that's a tough one to follow, Daniel, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Well,
Good to be here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really
Sure.
appreciate that. It's nice to have an actual film person on the.
We're all film people. Well, many of us.
Many of us.
You, Daniel.
Hey, look, I make movies, okay?
Side of the Pink Panther.
Yeah, side of the big. Yeah, we all know. Anyway, so yes, let's jump right into this whole mess with the originals. All right, I'll stop. The original Star Wars that came out in 1977, and this was made by a guy named George Lucas. Now, and George is an interesting guy, I think. I mean, you know, he has the Star Wars franchise, but then he's made some other interesting projects, I think, in the recent years. But this is his big claim to fame, as everybody knows, and it came out being not necessarily a sci-fi film, but like a opera in space.
Space opera.
Space opera, and it's mainly about, you know, it's called Star Wars, but you could also call it the Skywalker Show because it's about a kid, quote unquote kid, named Luke Skywalker, played by the Joker himself, Mark Hamill, and it's about his journey where he meets up with this older guy named Sir, I'm not named after a beer, Alec Guinness, and we find out Alec Guinness's character is named Obi-Wan Ben Kenobi, and we find out that he's kind of like this kind of a powerful guy. He has some kind of a power called the Force. They meet up with a couple pilots named Han Solo and Chewbacca, otherwise known as the Other Human and a Giant Tribble. And they meet, and their mission is to save a princess known as Princess Cinnamon Bun, otherwise known as Princess Leia. I'm sorry, I'm really being mean here. The reason I use those names is because Chewbacca is called a Wookiee and he's covered in hair, and it always is a common joke no matter who you are, and it looks like Princess Leia's hairdo is giant cinnamon buns on the side of her head. Of course, even though it can be said that this is the the Skywalker show, sort of, it really does feature two characters that become very much staples in the Star Wars universe. That being C-3PO and R2-D2. And this is kind of their big introduction in the Star Wars universe when we get this famous scene between the two droids and Luke himself. Take a listen.
Take my meaning, sir.
Have you been in many battles?
Several, I think.
Were you on a Star Cruiser?
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
What's this?
We're talking about
What is what? He asked you a question. What is that?
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
If you're interested, I can tell you a lot of stories about
I think you
Lucas's
have to go
anticipation
on
of how
which
Star
a
Wars
person who's some
is going to be
importance has had
received.
been.
Okay, yeah.
Dark Angel was attacked.
Here's more of this recording.
Yeah. He says that he is the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a resident of these parts. And it's a private message for him. Quite frankly, sir, I don't know what he's talking about. Our last master was Captain Antilles. But
So, what you hear there is the voice of C-3PO, played by Anthony Daniels, and the little bit of bickering between him and the Beeps, which are R2-D2, that kind of was not just on screen. The two people, Anthony Daniels and the guy in the R2-D2 suit, Kenny Baker, thank you, did have an ongoing feud, and I believe it's still ongoing to this day.
Kenny Baker passed away.
Oh, he did. Okay, well, yes, absolutely. So let's do a roundtable here discussion because I mean Star Wars is a lot to pack in. Dylan, we'll start with you. The first Star Wars, not even called what it would be in the future, A New Hope, just called The Star Wars by this point. Your thoughts on it?
Well, this is where it all began. This movie is extremely influential in pretty much any sci-fi movie to this day. It's influenced many famous directors like Christopher Nolan and James Cameron, and I really, really love Star Wars. I love this movie, and it's a lot better than Star Trek.
And Jared, what are your thoughts on 1977's Star Wars?
Well, it's been I would say a long time since I watched any Star Wars movie, other than Rogue One, which was okay. It was okay, but I think it set a really good tone for the entire series, and they had a lot of great characters, and the plot was good. So
Yeah, there we go. Christy.
Yeah, similar to Jared, I watched all of the Star Wars movies when I was 11, so I'm a little fuzzy. However, it's definitely an influential film. I thought it was amazing, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the movies. They're just not for me. I definitely should rewatch them, but it's very influential and a lot of good characters and very interesting plot and very complex storyline after a while.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And for everyone out there, storytellers, it's an example of the hero's journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Professor Cook, your thoughts?
Well, unlike, to make myself feel old, unlike you guys, I was actually around when I was 15 when Star Wars first came out, standing around for hours and hours to see it. The thing that even I remember at the time was the Hallmark special effects at the time.
Yes.
And it had, for want of a better term, do I curse Lucas or do I thank him? Because I went to his alma mater and he's very influential in that at USC, really well known obviously. But if you take a look at the particularly science fiction films, after '77 for 5 or 6 years, everything tried to be special effects built around that.
Mhm.
If you take a look at, and I was so happy to see all my old friends back for Star Trek the Motion Picture, but oh my God, it was so bad.
Awful.
Because
awful.
all it was special effects. And so you take the good with the bad. I of course loved the film, and it the quick story Danielle was going to mention to you guys was the rumor that went around our school was Lucas showed pretty much the final version to Spielberg and Coppola and all of his friends and De Palma, and at the end of it they got up and they said, "Sorry, George, really better luck next time."
Except Spielberg.
Spielberg had better things to say about it.
They're good friends.
But the rumor is that Lucas was in Mexico when it was released because he expected it to just bomb.
Oh yeah.
And the two other things were that he was smart enough when he sold this to Fox for distribution. They didn't want any of the merchandising rights. They said, "Well, we'll buy from you." So he took those, and that's what made him the billionaire.
Wow.
And
Hey,
then,
Gene Roddenberry, did you do any of that?
They're probably kicking themselves today.
Oh yeah, they probably are. And that
Alec Guinness is still getting royalties.
and that's the
He's
thing, you know,
beyond
Alec didn't like this at all. If I've heard the stories correctly, he hated this thing. And but I mean, like when you think Obi-Wan Kenobi, you think Alec Guinness, and he came back for all three of these.
And yet he got a Best Supporting Actor.
There you go. Yeah.
nomination.
In fact, here is Alec Guinness fighting with you know, the breathing guy. I forget his name.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, gods.
Okay, yeah, I obviously know his name is Anakin. Duh. No, it's Darth Vader, of course, voiced by James Earl Jones, and the obviously the buzzing sounds you're hearing are the famous weapon invented for Star Wars, the lightsaber, a take on the famous a famous sword. The other thing about
Well, actually,
yes.
a fun fact here.
Yeah.
Lucas originally wanted the Jedi's weapon to just be a sword, but he said, nah.
Let's
too
make it
bland.
let's make it
Let's make it
sci-fi.
fun."
I'm gonna just be honest. James Earl Jones has a beautiful voice. And little known fact, he actually had a stutter.
Really?
Yep.
And I mean, as far as I know, Vader himself, even though he's obviously the memorable villain of this whole thing, is only in the movie about 12 minutes or something like that,
Right.
and he that obviously leaves an impact for this.
And well, the thing about this first Star Wars is it's the most scaled back because it's not as high budgeted.
Right.
It's very, I mean, you gotta be expecting it's not this big cultural phenomenon. So
I'll throw out another little trivia
Yeah.
bit for you guys. You mentioned Han Solo and the Wookiee.
Yeah.
Do you know the derivation of the term Wookiee?
No, I do not.
A couple of the my sound instructors were worked on Star Wars, and Walter Murch was the sound designer on that as well. And his next door neighbor's name was, I believe, George Wookiee. So as they were doing the sound designs, they used that in THX 1138. You'll hear it
Right.
actually, and so that's one of the reasons they named him a Wookiee.
Interesting. Well, you know, again, the other thing about this movie that made it notable is the music, which is obviously done by the great John Williams.
yeah, Daniel, Star Wars gets John Williams.
They do get John Williams.
Not Star Trek.
The
But
greatest composer of all time.
he's the king. The one, you know, as famous as the main theme is and the Force theme in this movie, there is one song that everybody hums when they think Star Wars, and especially the first one here. And I mean this little ditty right here. So yes, the famous Cantina band is still being played to this day. It's a famous song, and everybody knows it. Even if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, you know it. So this film was such a big success that Lucas knew he had something on his hands. All the cast and crew knew they had something on their hands. They needed to get the fans more. They needed to give them more. And this is 1977, so they didn't wait. They jumped right into the next year. And this is where we get to Star Wars' first mistake. We got to 1978, and they came up with something called this.
The Star Wars Holiday Special. Starring Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
We know.
Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
Knew that too.
Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia.
Alright, I don't think I can take any more of that. The Star Wars Holiday Special. It was supposed to be like a Christmas special with
No.
Star Wars.
No.
What is it?
No. This is not George Lucas's fault either. He wanted it originally just to be a short film, just about a simple adventure about Han and Chewie. And, well, the executives kind of stole it from him. And he said, fine, I'll just go make Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
So, this is not George Lucas's fault.
Quick roundabout table with this. We'll start with you, Professor. Holiday special, yay or nay?
Oh, it's horribly painful. Again, my older son is marathoning all of the old ones, all the previous ones for the next movie, and so I inconsiderately included the Star Wars Christmas holiday special.
And I'm not defending this. I'm defending George Lucas, not the special.
Right.
However, fun fact: this is the first appearance of Boba Fett.
That's
Well,
true.
Have you all heard what can you get a Wookiee for Christmas when he already owns a gun?
What's that?
It's a song.
Oh, really?
Google it one of these days.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I've heard it.
Yeah, okay.
Christy, quick thoughts.
I only saw the beginning of it, only the very beginning and whatnot, and the Star Wars Holiday Special,
Yeah.
but it's definitely probably a terrible thing, poor quality, but I found it on YouTube, and believe it or not,
Oh, yeah. Full
the
thing's there.
YouTube thing that I found was actually uploaded by a Keene State student that I
No
Really?
way.
Yeah, I
Really?
know the guy. I know the guy, and last thing is, Daniel, at least this is the only bad Star Wars movie.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jared, quick
Motion picture, Final Frontier.
quick thought here.
I actually never watched it, so I'm just gonna pass it on to Dylan.
Fair enough. He
I've-
said
I've
his
said
word.
my part.
He said
Okay.
he said his
It's a
part.
bad. It's bad. You can't fight that.
Right. Right.
It's- Don't trash George Lucas for this.
I
Trash the executives
I-
of what was it, NBC?
CBS or something
CBS,
like that. Yeah,
CBS.
CBS, I think. Well, you know, this was their first bump in the road. I mean, every franchise has bumps in the road, but thankfully they came back and they did something that would be a little bit better. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it, and so when we come back, we're going to discuss their next incarnation in the series. But to actually bounce off what you were saying, Professor, you were saying that this was such a big deal that it really did inspire a lot of franchises.
Yes.
And so quickly, I want to mention that I think I call the year 1979 the year of the sci-fi strike back because of Star Wars, and because we got three.
Strike Back. That's a good one.
Strike Back, yeah, you like that? Because we got 3 sci-fi-ish movies out there. We got the first in the Alien series, which became a huge thing. We got kind of a ridiculous, cheesy one in the form of Moonraker, the James Bond film.
Ooh.
Gives Moonraker some credit here.
Boo.
And then, as bad as it is, it did bring our old friends to the big screen. So I'm gonna have it play us out. It did bring us Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
This movie is
Terrible.
Huh?
What was it again?
What's on?
What was the movie again?
Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating
So
the
there-
same
what do you
thing
think so
over
far?
and
It's
over
fun?
for 75
You can tell we have a lot of.
you
You
might
can tell we have a
be-
lot of
Just,
fun doing
and
this.
just gonna warn you, this show also has another name. It's the Roast Daniel
That's why I
Seletti Show.
Yeah.
yeah. Smokey to switch things up.
But he's
Because
got
there's
control of
a
your
lot
thoughts.
more to
So
say.
that is true.
than I should
I
know
have
because
silenced
my
him
grandfather
before.
But we
was
have
a
control over
firefighter.
him.
And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires. Which means always BYOB. No?
And yeah,
Bring
you
your
can't call
own
yourself a James
bucket
Bond
to the
fan.
campfire.
You've never seen all the James Bonds.
And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So
Yeah,
for the love
we're
of the
proudly
outdoors, go to
brought to us by,
SmokeyBear.com to learn
Smokey
more
Bear.
about wildfire
okay.
Because
prevention.
you won't
Brought
play
to
any
you
of
by
the
the
other
U.S.
ones.
Forest Service, your state foresters,
which ones they
and
are.
the NFL.
Which one?
The condoms.
Oh my god. Brought to you by.
Yes, John Williams bringing us back into the show. My name is Daniel, and this is As the Reel Turns. And today we're doing part 1 of our big Star Wars special, the original trilogy and some tiny things that followed. Right before the break, we talked about the actual original Star Wars, and then their first bump in the road being the holiday special, but they struck back, literally, in The Empire Strikes Back. By this point, they decided to go with a different formula. They decided, in their famous opening scroll that you see in every Star Wars movie, almost, you would see it now called Episode 5, which, when I first saw these films, I always got confused at that. Which made A New Hope, the first one, Episode 4, and I'm like, did someone forget to count here or something? And obviously this would be fixed when the prequels came out and so on and so forth. But Empire Strikes Back, it really does become that one film that everybody seems to like a lot. Darth Vader definitely gets a huge boost in screen presence, especially with his famous Imperial March theme there that you heard. And there's a lot of famous scenes in this movie as well, because you get you not only get I've lost my train of thoughts. You not only get the return of all your favorite characters, but you also get stuff like new planets that they go to during the Star Wars. One being the planet Hoth, which you see in the very beginning, and you get famous lines like this between Han Solo, Harrison Ford, and Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill.
It'll keep you warm until I get the shelter up. I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah, so you know, he's helping Luke out there, who's stranded in the cold and stuff like that. And then you also get new relationships between. There's a lot of relationships in this movie. There's Leia and Han, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. They get together. They start a romance. Also, there's a strange twist of events where she passionately makes out with Luke Skywalker, and you'll find that weird for a reason.
Not exactly make out.
Well, you know what I mean. And then, of course, probably the most famous relationship that you will see in this movie comes between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in one of the most famous scenes, not in just Star Wars, but in all of cinema. And you know this scene.
No spoiler alert needed.
No spoiler alert needed. If you're listening, say it along with me.
No, I am the Father. Not true. That's impossible. Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
If I remember correctly, this really shocked audiences when they heard it. I mean, because nobody saw this coming.
Well, in the trailer, it was supposed to be, I think, something like, I killed your father. Or
something like that.
Or Obi-Wan killed your father. They purposely hit it.
But I quickly want to mention that that famous line there, what James Earl Jones says, is, I call it the second most quoted line in all of film. That being right up against this line right here.
He can stand it, I can. Play it.
That being a clip from Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart saying, "Play it," period. He does not say, "Play it again, Sam." He says, "Play it." Just like how Darth Vader says, "No, I am your father," not "Luke, I am your father." Luke's name is never said. Let's clear that up right now.
Well, Ingrid Bergman says, "Play it, Sam."
Yes, true.
But never play it again.
Play it again, Sam. We'll start with you, Professor.
Sure.
Empire Strikes Back. Is it kind of like, to reference Star Trek here, is it like Wrath of Khan? Is it a little like over the top here with fame, or is it just a great film?
By far, I think Empire is by far my favorite. It brings, and this is one of the things that I like most about the Harry Potter series, is as they got older, it got a little bit more adult, a little bit more mature and darker. Not that I was looking for something super dark, but Empire is by far my favorite because it really starts three-dimensionalizing the characters and brings in more serious. Not that, you know, fighting against ultimate evil is not serious from A New Hope.
More mature, you said?
Yeah, absolutely, I think.
A lot more action.
And,
it's called growing the beard.
Right. Yeah, no, it holds a very personal place in my heart. It's by far my favorite.
Yeah. And Jared, how about you for Empire Strikes Back?
Well, I'm sure Christy feels left out here after you skipped him, but
I'm bouncing around.
I do have to agree.
Trying to mix up the order.
It takes on a more mature approach, especially when Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand.
Yeah, that's a big scene in this film as well.
But yeah, it definitely gained a lot of popularity.
Christy?
Yes. Well, I would have to say, similar to Jared, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but I did like it, and you know, it's interesting. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it was good. And I mean, you get the first appearance of Yoda, and you know, Yoda's really funny, kind of sometimes.
Did you say yoga?
Yoda.
Yoga. Okay.
Yoda.
And Dylan, your thoughts?
Well, the reason why I like Empire Strikes Back is because, I mean, you know, the first movie we get introduced, but the second movie, you get to build on that world. You get other planets, new characters, as Christy said, first appearance of Yoda, and many others, actually. Emperor.
Do you guys know the story behind why that opening scene in Hoth was created and Luke's beaten up by the kind of
Car accident.
Car accident. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, car accident.
To explain why he's got the
scar.
the
Yeah.
scars and everything.
But
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's like as I said, you start out. Now you can introduce more and just keep building that world.
And that's a great segue there.
And
because-
also we get the first the Imperial March theme.
That's right. Yeah. Like I played there in the beginning. Of course, we do get the character that you guys both mentioned there. But another character, I can't believe nobody said his name. Kind of like the cool man of the galaxy. This guy right here, who has, I think, by far one of the coolest introductions in the Star Wars
Frank
world.
Oz.
No, I don't mean Frank Oz. I mean this guy.
Why, you slimy, double-crossing, no-good swindler.
You got a lot of guts coming here after what you pulled.
How you doing, you old pirate? So good to see you. Well, he seems very friendly.
Yes. Very friendly.
Yes.
Sorry, I meant Two-Face.
Yeah, Two-Face, yeah, Harvey Dent. Yes, that's Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. I'm going to do that to an old friend of mine at some point, because I really would love to see their face when I quote Lando there.
You quoting Star Wars.
Quoting Star Trek, of course, but words, oh yeah, do it all the time.
Star Wars
One of the other famous lines from this movie that we get is, because Han and Leia have this relationship going on here, Lando kind of turns out to be kind of a traitor at a point, because he works this deal out with Vader, and basically the deal is, you live if you give me Han Solo. Sounds good. And when they're gonna when they captured Han Solo, they put him in something called carbonite, which is basically putting him in freeze. They're gonna freeze him, basically. And we have this very, very famous line that, I'm sure every geeky relationship out there has said when they part ways or something like that. This is the line here.
I love you.
I know.
And right there you hear a lot of the love theme that was featured in this film as well. And, John Williams, again, working his magic. I think that sounds a little bit like Marion's love theme from Raiders. Just a little bit, if you rework the notes a little bit.
I hate to keep throwing trivia at
No,
you.
please,
You
please.
guys know the story behind the I love you line.
Yeah,
Yes.
he didn't want to come back.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Well, what I had heard was also that they'd taken, that was like take 16, and because he would say I love you too, and they would just break up because it's so kind of silly, cheesy, and everything like that. So he eventually kind of. My understanding is that Ford said, "Look, just roll cameras and let's take it," and then he said that.
Speaking of Raiders, this movie also introduced us to one person who is connected to Indiana Jones franchise, Lawrence Kasdan.
And
he wrote it.
Oh, wrote it. Okay, yeah.
Well, Lucas wrote the story, then
Right.
Kasdan came in to polish everything up. But
Right.
yeah, he's a big. He's the guy who wrote all those lines, like some of Yoda's
Yeah.
the Force lines and.
And speaking of the
Things up.
little guy himself, we got to mention him real
Frank
quick.
Oz.
Frank Oz, yes. Yoda becomes one of the biggest Star Wars names out there. And yes, performed by Frank Oz, Yoda is a Muppet, believe it or not. So kind of Disney already had their foot.
So I got to ask you guys,
Yes.
being of a different generation than myself, and while we haven't been addressing, we've been addressing the original three.
Right.
And there are others out there, whether or not we acknowledge them, I tend not to. But on the later ones, obviously, Yoda is all CG.
It's all CG.
Which do you guys prefer?
Muppet.
Yeah, okay, good.
Muppet,
Just wondering.
but I don't mind the CG.
Okay.
Because that look has become so ingrained.
Of course, yeah. we're so used to
I'm
it.
Muppet all the way.
There you go.
I'm Muppet all the
We
way.
were wondering that about you.
Oh, there's that roast. You're getting into it
I'm
now.
getting into it. I'll be back next week.
There we go. But yeah, so Yoda has a lot of memorable moments in especially Empire Strikes Back. This is his big one. He would come back in the third installment, but this is where he has the most screen time, and he delivers such lines like this, of course.
You do nothing that I say. You must unlearn what you have learned.
Alright, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah, so we have famous lines like that, and if you listen closely, if you're a big Muppet fan, you can obviously hear it's like, is Fozzie Bear have a cold or something like that? Because you can hear Frank Oz in there, and that's one of the hidden gems about Yoda there and about his character. I'm gonna be honest here for a second. I know we've said a lot of great things about this movie, and this is not a Trek thing or anything. This is a personal opinion. It's not my personal favorite, this film, because I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm at the end and I'm thinking like, okay, so I got Han and Carbonite, Luke's hand is chopped off, Leia's standing there looking pretty, but that's nice, but I'm like, give me more.
As a standalone film, it's a huge letdown.
Yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, now I need to watch what would be actually my preferable favorite in the trilogy.
Hey, and you forgot one other person in Empire Strikes Back,
What's
Boba
that?
Fett.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course, Boba Fett. Yeah. We did mention he made his first appearance in a cartoon version in the holiday special, but this is the first appearance of Boba Fett. He's a bounty hunter who actually is the one that captures. There's the word. Han Solo, and he kind of is the deal maker between Lando and Darth. So yes, now it comes time to see my preferable favorite in the trilogy. The Empire got their name in the last movie. Let's give the Jedi, the good side, a chance at the movie title. And this is a personal request from our friend Dylan over here. We opened with this theme from the next installment, Return of the Jedi. Dylan,
I hope you play the right version.
If it isn't, I'm sorry. I just found the version I found. This is the theme that you hear from our main alien's palace in the beginning of the film.
It was supposed to be the Revenge. It was originally the Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's why it was supposed to be the Vengeance of Khan.
And then became the Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, okay. So yes, just as Professor Cook was telling me, this was originally Revenge of the Jedi, but it was changed to Return of the Jedi.
And that became Revenge of the Sith.
Exactly.
Which we'll talk about later.
We'll mention that next week. So Return of the Jedi.
Shout out to the Max Rebo band.
There you go. Yep. Return of the Jedi. We enter with the theme that you're hearing there in what is known as Jabba's palace. Now, Jabba the Hutt is another memorable character, and he's kind of like just this big slimy slug that is really repulsive looking, and if you see him, it's like, okay, bad news is coming. And
He's a Hutt.
He's a Hutt, yeah.
Not to mention pizza, though.
Yeah, pizza.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I stole it from you.
Daniel's never watched Spaceballs, so.
No, and
well, yeah, for all you Star Wars fans, please watch Spaceballs.
He probably will never watch Spaceballs, but yes, Spaceballs became one of the biggest Star Wars parodies out there, along with actually one that came out right after the first one. You can look it up on YouTube. It's one of the most low-budget things you'll ever find, but Hardware Wars
is great.
I love Hardware
It's
Wars.
Lucas's
It's a
favorite.
peaceful basketball.
Yes.
It's Lucas's favorite.
Augie Ben Doggy. Augie Ben Doggy.
Augie Ben Doggy,
Yeah.
yep, ham salad.
Ham salad.
Android.
Chinchilli or
We can spend an hour on that one.
Yeah. Definitely Hardware Wars and Spaceballs. If you like Star Wars, then you'll like those parodies. Mel Brooks is Spaceballs, so he's a genius, of course. Jabba the Hutt, however, take a listen to him, and you will know that. Keep that description I gave to you, and then match it with his voice, and then just never sleep again because it's nightmare fuel.
As long as I can see Leia, I'll be happy.
A bear! Oh, wait, no.
You know,
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca? Is that his
Chewbacca.
Oh, okay.
Chisa, Picha, Huaki Chewbacca.
Yes, I am here. Your worship for this.
So what you're hearing there is that big booming voice that is Jabba, and then you heard C-3PO there in the background too, because he was captured along with R2 by Jabba because they were supposed to be delivering a message about Luke to Jabba, but Jabba's like, no, you're mine now. And now, unfortunately, he's gotten his hands on Chewbacca. At this point, we also have Han Solo as a wall decoration in Jabba's palace. But luckily, there's a nice-looking lady to help him out, and we get the return of the relationship that we've all wanted throughout the galaxy.
Just relax for a moment. You're free of the carbonite. Shh. You have hibernation sickness.
I can't see.
Your eyesight
You don't want to see,
return
buddy.
in time.
Where am I?
Jabba's palace.
Otherwise known as Hell.
Who are you?
Someone who loves you.
Where?
Lucky guy.
I gotta get you out of here.
So, unfortunately, they don't get out of there. Han's recaptured again, and Leia gets captured and is put in probably her second most famous appearance next to the cinnamon bun hair. Her famous metal bikini that guys went crazy for.
Did Star Trek ever get that?
Star
No.
Trek had dancing green women. Though.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
we-
did you ever get a metal bikini?
No, but we had Uhura supposedly dancing naked in Star Trek V.
Was she?
I don't know. It's never quite actually said. But thankfully, they all break free thanks to Luke Skywalker doing his thing. And by this point, he's been training with Obi-Wan in the first one, with Yoda in the second one, and now he's kind of like, hi, I'm a Jedi Knight now, which is what the people who use the lightsabers are called, and they use the thing that we mentioned before called the Force. And so there's a huge fight throughout the beginning with Jabba, and we get the famous scene with the famous Sarlacc pit, which was kind of ruined by George in the CGs. Thank you, George. But we also get the return of someone that you mentioned, Dylan. We also get the return of Boba Fett, who everybody doesn't like this scene.
Got killed by a blind guy.
Got killed by a blind guy, and the blind guy says this. Or he doesn't have to say it at all. That's fine with me too. He basically just says, Boba Fett, Boba Fett.
He did.
Where?
At the beginning.
Oh, he did? Okay. I didn't hear it then. But yeah, and then they escape, and Lando is back, and he's kind of, like I said, I'm sorry for doing this. But they save the day, and then get confronted by our main villain being the evil Emperor, Palpatine. Big fight in space, on land, and between Darth and Luke. They finally reconcile in the end. Darth says, look, I'm sorry I was a bad father. Here's some cookies. No, he doesn't say it. I'm sorry I was bad. Let me see you with my own eyes. Luke wants to say, here, come with me. Anakin, his name is actually Anakin Skywalker, we find out. And Darth dies, but everyone's back together in a happy ending. Jared, we'll start with you. Return of the Jedi. My personal favorite. How about yours?
I wouldn't say personal favorite, but they had a lot of places in the movie and a lot of plot points going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, just like Jabba the Hutt, I really liked him. He was kind of weird, but, at the same time, he was just like this powerhouse kind of guy. And you kind of felt nervous if you watch the scene where they go into his palace, because it's almost like a dungeon in and of itself.
Yeah, it's true.
Because C-3PO and R2 went to go.
You messed that up a little bit.
Yeah. They went to send the message or whatever,
Right.
like you were saying, and they just got captured. So
Right. And Professor Cook, your thoughts on Return of the Jedi?
Not to be a downer, but of the three, well, I'll say original trilogy, it's my least favorite.
Okay.
In my opinion, we all discussed about how Empire kind of made more three-dimensional and a little bit darker a story, and I thought they played Jedi a little bit too much for laughs.
Okay.
Solo, is this silly guy who just by accident ends up killing Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and this is probably over-analyzing it, but here we have this tremendous villain in all of film, Darth Vader, and he becomes a second banana.
Yeah.
And so I was disappointed by that. I still, it was great fun. It was fun to see the Ewoks, who my understanding is Lucas originally intended Chewbacca to be an Ewok, but they couldn't do the effect. And so that's why Chewie's that big. But Dylan, you're going to jump in on that?
Oh yeah,
Jump in
about
on
the
this, Dylan.
Ewoks, Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis.
Yes.
Your thoughts on Jedi?
Oh,
Dylan?
you all set, Tom?
No, that's
Oh
good.
no, actually, this is I think my favorite of the original trilogy. I don't know, just everything feels like it just gets wrapped up, and I know there's some silly stuff, but it's a fun movie to watch. It's got good battles, it's great emotional moments, and great music too.
Right.
Especially that Lefty Neck song.
Absolutely.
I personally love Return of the Jedi. It's probably one of my favorites, and I thought it was amazing. Darth Sidious, we see him in the flesh.
Yep.
And previously we only saw him in like a monitor or something.
Palps.
Palps, yes.
Palps.
I didn't really know what the word was, but yeah, it was really good.
Hologram. There it is.
And
Hologram.
But you know who played him in the original edition, not the special.
Not
edition.
yeah.
They redid it.
They redid it, yeah.
But Sidious was great, and I remember seeing Sebastian Shaw as the unmasked Darth Vader, and I thought he was really scary looking.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I quickly want to say that I mentioned the strange kiss that between Luke and Leia, not to be confused with Luke and Laura from General Hospital. General Hospital. I'm sorry. But yeah, Luke and Leia, we find out that the kiss was even weirder because Lucas decided to throw in this one little extra detail here that's saying they're siblings. And people went nuts over that, and they're like, "What? What? Why'd they kiss?"
Didn't you think that Leia was then going to be the other? At the end of Empire,
Yeah.
it says, no, there is another.
There's another.
And then later on we find out that they're brother and sister, so I should have thought that was going to be the plan.
Well, that's the original thing was Leia obviously wasn't going to be Luke's sister,
Right.
and there was going to be he was going to have a sister, but she was going to be on the other side of the galaxy,
Right.
undergoing Jedi training.
Right. Let's. I want to do a quick couple clips here.
Oh,
yeah.
Quick trivia too. That song "Lapti Neck" you heard at the beginning. If you've heard of the band Toto, Joseph Williams is the lead singer. He's also the son of John Williams, and he's the guy that wrote a lot of the songs for in Jabba the Hutt.
I think he wrote some songs actually for that Space Camp movie that we mentioned too.
And he also did his own version of Lapti Neck. Look it up. It's called Lapti Neck Overture on YouTube.
That's my trivia.
It's in English.
Sure. Who played, David Prowse?
Yes.
Originally played
Vader.
Vader.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be unveiled as Vader, but he let loose that beforehand, before Jedi came out, that Vader was killed. And so Lucas reshot it. Had it reshot.
Oh.
To punish him.
Punish him.
So there. Take that, David.
Take that. We say.
Listen to without James Earl Jones.
The Scottish. Yeah.
Was it Scottish?
He's Scottish.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to that. It's very.
Take him away.
It's very
Take him
funny.
away. It's like, okay, dude. We talked a little bit about comic relief in this film with the Ewoks and stuff, but there's also some darkness thanks to Palps here. So take a listen to Palps real quick here.
Don't you? The heat is swelling in you now. Take your Jedi weapon. Use it. I am unarmed. Strike me down with it. Give in to your anger. With each passing moment, you make yourself more ice.
Ian McDermott, we love you.
Ian McDermott, yeah, you gotta love that guy. But yes, of course, we all know about the comic relief in this thing. So take a listen to the lovable little teddy bears being the Ewoks. So you can definitely hear like the silliness that the Ewoks kind of bring to the table.
And you reminded me not to come down too heavily on Jedi. In my opinion, it has by far the best lightsaber duel.
Oh,
And
yes,
at the
of
end, when
course.
Palpatine gets Luke and Vader to go at it, that's just stunning.
No.
Yeah.
No. So we're going to do another quick public service announcement, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the little kind of tiny little impacts that Star Wars gave after these movies came out, and then we're going to do our final thoughts and wrap up favorite game. So we'll be right back, and we're going to play it out with the original Yub Nub theme from Return of the Jedi. Take a listen, and we'll be right back.
You get to see Lando going like this.
Yeah.
Come on. So I didn't want to take time on the air
No.
during this, but so Luke's hallucinating on Hoth.
Ranger station.
At the
I'd like
beginning
to
of
report a
Empire, right?
bear hug.
And he sees
I put out my campfire and
Obi-Wan,
Smokey Bear
who
hugged
says,
me.
So you
"There
drank the
you
fire,
learned
you
from
stirred
Yoda
it,
that
drowned
Jedi
it
Master
again.
instructed me."
Felt that
right?
it was cold.
But then in the
Yeah,
in
but it's
the
just letting you know you
prequels,
did good.
Yoda isn't the one who
Smokey
No,
Bear.
however,
Status
however
update.
though, Yoda does train younglings.
There are many ways to
when-
start a fire.
before they get
What's
assigned to
your
a
way
Well, we
Jedi
never
Master.
see him, and
Lord
they-
Henry,
But
you're
also, and remember in
Smokey
episode
Bear
3,
guy.
Yoda says,
Sponsored by the US
Obi-Wan,
Forest
wait a
Service
minute, I have
Admirals
training
and
for
State
you.
Forest
I will teach.
Yeah,
so
I suppose.
it's not technically wrong.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just. No, it's just. I just don't want you.
This is gonna be all you guys. I have no idea.
I don't know.
All right. Oddly enough, what you just heard there. First, welcome back to As the Real Turns. My name is Daniel. We're talking Star Wars today. That was actually the theme song to a short-lived cartoon show that Star Wars was part of called Star Wars Droids, focusing on the adventures of R2 and C-3PO. This would be one of the first that would come out. There would be another cartoon show focusing on the Ewoks, and then the Ewoks themselves would even get 2 big films just by themselves. And these would kind of really just sound ridiculous if you ask me. But I just want to quickly get a quick quick thoughts on you because we gotta do a few other things. But Christy, we'll start with you. These cartoon series and even like the Ewok films, yay or nay?
Well, I will say that some of these cartoon series definitely hit it out of the park, and they were amazing. However, there were some that were a little lackluster, and there's specifically one recent show that I've heard is really bad. It's called Star Wars Resistance. I've heard it's pretty
It
bad.
wasn't that bad. I don't know though.
Yeah, but Clone Wars definitely,
We'll
hit it
mention
out of the
Clone Wars
park.
next week. Yeah.
But yeah, some of them were really good, and others weren't as good.
Dylan, quickly.
I really haven't seen any of the spin-off cartoon shows, not counting like Clone Wars and
Yeah.
Rebels. I'm saying like the ones after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
I've seen clips of droids. I've seen Ewoks, a few clips from that, but I don't really watch them. I just watch the original movies.
Mhm.
And that. What's canon? I watch what's canon.
Right. And Jared?
Yeah, I haven't really seen a lot either. I know they'd be on like Sunday night or Sunday morning cartoons or whatever.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah. Whatever. But anyways, I actually prefer the movies. I think they have a better charm to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Professor Cook, you said you have no idea what
The
these
only
are.
referenced canon beyond the films, I know little to nothing about any of the additional Star Wars stuff, all the comics, all the cartoons and things like that.
Right.
Also, one more thing is
Yeah.
that they got a lot of good games like Star Wars Battlefront 2. They have on
Battlefront's
PlayStation.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Of the original PC games,
Right.
not the new ones, the PC games.
Well, I think there's one guy who knows a lot about Star Wars, and he likes to speak his mind about it. It's time for yet another edition of Christy Rants.
Ready, Christy?
I hate you. Christy.
I knew you'd hate me for it.
I hate you.
Are you gonna be talking about
My
Star
dad brought me to
no.
Battlefront, and he's like, "Hey, Dylan, check out this game. Go ahead."
You guys are gonna know why Dave
PC.
Okay.
And I still play it to this
Sure.
day.
Oh yeah.
And I'm always like, "Dad, I love you." Thank you.
Oh, so you
Good idea.
pre-recorded this?
You know, it went on for a long time, and those dumb executives lost out on $1 billion because they thought that merchandising would be a bad idea.
Sounds like you're in a
Lucas is
club. That's
billionaire.
fun.
My issue,
Sounds like
though.
he's doing stand-up.
George Lucas, why do you have to make so many special editions to the point where the original copies are virtually non-existent?
I had them on VHS.
Why do you have to go back
I
and
did too.
fix everything?
I did.
Yeah.
You
There's
do it for
somewhere.
all your movies. It doesn't make any sense. Just let it be. Don't like make a special edition where there's a giant tail blocking the Force.
So what I'm going to do is,
I mean, why do you
this
have
next
to
thing
do
you don't
that,
have,
Lucas?
you don't look at the screen. I'm going to ask
I'm
you
not
to
the biggest
listen to
fan of
something,
Star Wars,
and
but
you don't look at the screen.
That's just stupid. I don't
Easier
know
for-
why
I mean,
they
harder for me
decided,
to
why
do
he
than
decided
for
to
those
do
guys.
that. And regardless of
You
what
can, like,
Daniel says,
You know Lucas's
Star
latest
Wars is a
plan.
good idea.
Yeah.
And,
He's
Daniel,
redoing
I just gotta say
Howard the
something.
Duck.
I recently
by
received word
CGing
that
an actual
Jabba the Hutt is
That's-
single.
that's
so-
what-
Oh yeah.
That's what you want to do with your money.
I've got his phone number on speed dial if you want it.
You know,
Daniel
look,
loves Jabba the Hutt.
I
Daniel
really
loves
wanted
Jabba
you
the
to
Hutt.
team me up with Leia this week, but fine, whatever.
I mean, Jabba, I can arrange a date, you know, it's not a big deal.
Slugs are Danish, Daniel.
What? Yeah,
Danish on
Yeah.
the cinnamon buns.
I got his number on speed dial.
You guys
if you
making no
want it.
sense. Look, we just have enough time to do our favorite game in the whole entire world. It is time for yet another edition of. It is time for yet another edition of. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. Who are you? Okay, so for Professor Cook, you haven't been here for this game yet.
That's true.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip. You don't look at the screen. You can close your eyes. You can do whatever you would like.
Okay, I'll do that.
And basically, what you have to do is tell me who this is and what it's from.
Okay.
That easy.
Do I buzz in or is
You
it
don't have
just
to buzz
mine?
in. I'll go.
It's
go
just
around.
mine. Okay.
Just yours. All right. So, gentlemen, if you are ready, close your eyes. Don't look at the screen. Do whatever you want. Here is your clip of the day. Maybe.
That was pretty tough.
Maybe if I could get the clip ready, you know, maybe this would actually work. Let's try this again.
No player shall at any time make contact with the umpire in any manner. The prescribed penalty for the violation is immediate ejection from the game. Rule number 4.06, subsection A, paragraph 4. Look it up, but do it in the stands. You're gone!
All right, gentlemen. I will start with Mr. Dillon over here. Who is that and what's it from?
It's an umpire.
Okay. Jared, who is that and who is it from?
I'm right. I mean, you can't. I'm
Jabba the
right.
Hutt from Star Wars.
Christy.
I will say a character from a baseball-related film.
Is it from the League of Their Own?
Either League of Their Own, or either League of Their Own, 8 Men Out, or Angels in the Outfield.
I am not telling who that is. And Professor Cook, who do you think that is?
I got nothing on that one. I mean, clearly they're all placing it as a sports or baseball one, but I don't recognize it.
Well, here's the thing. You all have lost, unfortunately, 100,000 points. You can open your eyes now or anything that you like. That was actually, because it's Star Wars, I had to do this. That was actually Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine in their baseball episode they made in the 7th season.
I said an umpire.
You were close. I'll give you like a point for that. But yes, that was a Star Trek episode. It was a little bit hard. But
I know Odo.
Half a point for me is saying it was baseball-related.
Okay, half a point.
I'm a huge Star Trek fan, as you guys know. I didn't like Deep Space Nine at all. So I never
okay.
watched it, so. But I like Odo. I know the actor.
There you go.
I don't know the actor.
Right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming on, especially our special guest, Professor
Great
Cook.
fun. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you can come back at some point. Love to have you back.
Sure.
Next week we'll be doing our second portion of Star Wars special. That will be the prequels and the sequels.
They made other movies?
Yeah, the Disney
I
ones.
don't know that I ever acknowledged those.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
there you go. All yours, guys.
I'm prepared to defend them.
There you go. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. We are the Night Shift, so we're going to do our ending theme of Night Court. My name is Daniel Soletti. This has been As the Real Turns. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
That's fun. You just kind of set up a topic every week.
Yeah, exactly.
We're so Scooby-Doo.
We need Scooby-Doo. Everybody, appreciate it. Thank you so much, really.
No.
Everybody wave goodbye.
Psych.
Yep. See you later.
No, there we go. Goodbye.
though Darth Vader wants to force choke me whenever he hears me say it, this is WKNH Keen.
I'm gonna say Dan can't love Jabba the Hutt if he is
Mike's
Jabba
gonna
the
see
Hutt.
first. Mike's gonna see first the DC.
Take care.
Good. What about the DC?
Take care.
See you later, Jared. Thanks a lot. I'll be right there.
Before you go screaming on out of here, don't forget to fill out the offline.
I did forget to do that. My bad.
No, it's okay. You still have time. Like,